Scoot over more. Hello, hello, good evening. Buenas noches, buenas tardes, buenos dias, wherever you might be. I know some of y'all were hanging out with me earlier today. Today is July 23rd, and it is the 8-year anniversary of me leaving the United States. And I think I could be quoted as saying today that that was one of the best things I'd ever done, and that it opened up a life I did not know was possible. And so that's kind of what we're talking about tonight with my special guest, Coach Ivana Robinson. But before we jump into our conversation with Ivana, I will go ahead and give you all my spiel, particularly if there is someone new watching who might not be familiar. My name is Adelia Agorashade. This is my channel. I am Picky Girl Travels the World. As I mentioned, I left the US 8 years ago. And lived in 4 countries before calling Mexico, particularly Mexico City, my home. I am a financial educator, and I am the co-host of Reclaim the Retreat with guess who? The one and only Ivana Robinson. And so with the work I do, it is literally my job to help you live a life you love, to live the life that you've always wanted. So, to that end, on this channel, we have conversations like we're having tonight. I share content about finances, travel, and kind of everything in between, in an effort to help you get to live the life that you want. So that's me. And if that sounds like your jam, welcome to the Picky Girl Nation. You should totally hit the subscribe button. That way you can make sure that YouTube sends you more of my videos. Um, so, and welcome to my guest. Okay. To many of you, she might look a little bit familiar. But in case you're new here and you are not familiar, this is Ivana Robinson, former corporate girly, who has left that life and carved a new one for herself as a life and leadership coach. What exactly is a life and leadership coach? I know I ask you this all the time, but I think a lot of people have a similar question.
Yeah, coaching is really a partnership. I help people to better understand themselves and their needs and to go after those things in a way that is both attainable and sustainable for where they are in their lives currently.
Okay. And so the conversation we wanted to have kind of fits with the theme of the day about like creating a life that you love, you know, pursuing happiness. I didn't know what that was at first. In case y'all hear a baby crying, we have guests in the other room, and one of them is only 2 months old. But yeah, that's the conversation we want to have, and I think it is very fitting for it to be today, uh, the 8-year anniversary of me leaving the United States. And today is also special for me because it was on this day 4 years ago that I left China in the midst of the COVID outbreak, to regain my freedom here in Mexico City. So, uh, so yeah, we're we're that's what we're talking about tonight. Um, I feel like, well, I said enough about me because actually Ivana's got a story to share herself. Like, yes, I'm out here living a life of my dreams, but so are you.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, when you were a corporate girly, were you living the life of dreams?
There's a period of time where yes, I was. I think I had the financial stability that I had been seeking. And I was traveling and I was seeing the world, but there did become a point where that was no longer the case.
And okay,
Yes.
when things were like wonderful and great, were like this a job that you had? Was this a job you had aspired to? No.
So in college, I was in a business school and I had to take a class on data management, operations, computers. And in that intro class, the first chapter of the book was about how much money you could make if you studied data and information management. And I was like, great, I'm gonna do that. And so that brought me into my consulting job and sort of doing computery things. I didn't have this is the job I wanted or was seeking it out. It was more, this is interesting to me, and the way that I saw consulting was I get to try different industries and kind of do a little bit of everything to better understand what it is I want to be doing. I also made it a point to work for a global company because I wanted to travel. I wanted to do a global deployment to go work in another country at a certain point. So that was more my focus and not necessarily the specific job.
Would you say that your life then was one of joy?
Mostly, I feel like when you're 22, it don't take much. Okay, look, I lived by myself in a city that I loved, and I could go do hood rat shit with my. Okay, I think it was a little bit, but I think as I got older, was more in the workforce, I think it did become very clear that that was not enough. There were aspects of my job that I loved, but if I was giving everything and over indexing on work, my internal self, my personal self, my social life, um, I didn't feel great. Like I was working, but for what end?
And how long did that last for?
I would say it was probably a period of 4 years. And I say that not the entire time, because once again, I was working with the point of I'm going to go work abroad. Um,
And you did.
I did that. And so I think part of it was me having this goal of I'm going to go work abroad, I'm going to live abroad, getting there, and then realizing, okay, but now what? I just wanted to be somewhere else and have an experience, but I hadn't necessarily given much thought to what I wanted from that experience or what was to come next once I accomplished that thing. And so I think that knocked me off center a little bit because now what am I working towards? What am I doing? What do I want? Um, I also did not, I moved to Belgium and I didn't love it. So that also took some regrouping.
I said, oh my gosh, 4 years, like I did not slog in a job that I did not love for more than 4 years of not loving it. So, yeah. So, okay, as let's say you weren't loving living in Belgium, the luster had kind of worn off on your professional gig.
Yes.
Were you able to joy in the rest of your life, or was there kind of
Yes, I wouldn't have made it if one of the Belgium is not a country I didn't plan to move to. It was not a country I was seeking out, but it's where there was an opportunity and I was like, cool, whatever. I'd never been to Belgium before I went. And so while the work part was not great, what was really cool was our office was at the airport. And in case you're unfamiliar, Belgium, Brussels specifically, is sort of centrally located within Europe. And so it is very easy either by train or to fly between countries to explore them. I also had a company car, so driving to other countries, something that was fairly easy. And so I was able to, the wanderlust explorer part of myself, I was able to kind of pour into a lot easier than I could when I was back in the States. Um, and then I did eventually sort of find, maybe was adopted by a group of Black women who were also living in Belgium at the time. And so that really helped to fill my cup as well.
I'm curious, those of you that are here with us live tonight, um, does this sound familiar? Because I'm thinking of myself, and they're very much a point in time where I lived for, like, for me also, it was travel. And like, hated the job. I dreaded going to work, but it was like, okay, when is my next trip?
Yes.
When's the next thing I planned? And I'm curious, does that sound familiar to any of y'all? If you're watching this on the replay, same question, let us know.
Yeah. It's like weekends. When is my next vacation? When can I take a day off? Is a lot of that. Just trying to get through it.
I mean, I lived a life. I lived a lot of life where I was focused on just trying to get through it. And that is not how anybody should be living. Um, I would, you know what I'm saying? Like, we get such a short period of time here on earth. Like, I think you miss so much of the time. You don't get to experience things fully if you're like got these blinders. Let me just get through this.
Tunnel vision. You're definitely not. I feel like there's a certain way of like it's making things worse than they are because we are not in the moment trying to get to the next accomplishment, the next vacation. And not to say there isn't you, and I think there are times in your life when you just do gotta push through. But if that is your every day, that's a lot.
Yeah. And, I'm thinking back now, if someone had asked, was my life gonna be happy or was my life joyful?
Yeah.
The answer, I don't know if I'd have been able to say then the answer was no, but definitely look back on it. And it saddens me a little bit that so many years were spent where I was not enjoying being here. And
Yeah. I mean, I think in general, we're indoctrinated that, particularly as women, that it is normal to not enjoy your life, right? It is normal to just be going through the motions. But in reality, that's not normal. It's just common.
yeah, I think about, well, like, we went to Chicago last month. And every time somebody heard we were going to Chicago, they were like, "Oh my gosh, I love Chicago in the summer. Summertime shy, blah, 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 blah." And okay, honestly, I think we live in the greatest city in the world. I know everybody does not hear my opinion of that, but that's what I think. And then it hit me of why people love summertime shy so much. It's because, like, they're living this kind of carefree existence. They're indulging in the things that they love. They're outside. They're socializing with people. And let's be honest, you can't do that the other 8 months of the year in Chicago, right? So like everybody's focused on the summer. And I think a lot of us do that in our lives when we're focused so heavily like on vacation or and that moment on vacation or on that trip, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so fucking awesome. But like your whole life should be like that.
Yeah.
I mean, and I say that now as I am celebrating the anniversary of my life becoming like that. Again, like if you had talked to me maybe 10, 12 years ago, I don't know that I would have believed that I could, that one, that I could have it, or that I deserved
Yeah, I think that is probably sometimes you don't know how different things are until you experience them. And for me, I think there are parts of my life where I was very enjoying what was. But thinking about the times when I wasn't, when I was just trying to get through it, I'm like, oh, there was so much more joy to be had, like in that version of my life, and in those small moments. I think that's some of it is we think that joy or happiness or fulfillment needs to come from really big things or really big shifts, and I don't think that's true.
it. And so when did you wake up? When did you figure out like my life could be more full than this? I don't have to settle, because let's be honest. I tease Ivana about this all the time. She had that good job. Like that's the thing we go to school for. We're told our entire life, go to school, get a degree, get you a good job, make the money,
Yeah.
and you know,
I think for me, it was honestly realizing that while it was a good job, that did not make it a good job for me. But also the fact was I had what 40 more years of working ahead of me.
it sounds
Like, well, and that's what I was like, that just sounds ridiculous. And so I'm just like, oh, well, what's 1 year out of 40 years, right? If I can't retire until I'm near 70, like what is me taking off 1 or 2 years really gonna do? Um, and so I figured I could go back.
okay. So you quit your job, and was the thought that will do nothing or not this job for a year or so? Like, was the intention a sabbatical?
So I wanted to go into coaching full time. It was the part of my job that I did actually enjoy. But I realized that as I continued moving up the ladder, I was really going to be doing less of that. It was more about the clients as opposed to my internal team. So I quit my job with the intention of doing a coaching certification. And yeah, I was like unemployed for at least the next 3 months. Like that in my mind is what I could visualize. And then the world shut down because this is March 2020. And so it was a blessing and a curse, right? Like I wanted to come to Mexico and did not when borders started to close. I thought I'd, take some more time. But because of that, I was also able to more easily extend my unemployment because I was in the house. So that helped me. But yeah, it was really a commitment to self to be like, I'm not going to think about what comes next. I am not going to think about making money or that I need to be doing something. I'm going to do my coaching certification and like learn, and what comes of that comes of that.
Okay, now hold on. You just said something really important. You quit your job and was not working, and you said, I'm not going to worry about money,
Yes.
but you got to eat.
Yes. So at the time, I was living with my best friend. I had moved back to my home state of Colorado, and so her and my biological family, my mom and my brothers, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna go homeless or hungry. I wasn't paying real rent either. Like I was contributing, but not in the way that I would be as, if I lived on my own.
I think that's important for us to take a little moment here, because then when I am talking to women in particular, and they're telling me the job is stressing them out, they're getting ill, they hate it, what have you. And then my next thought is, well, you shouldn't be at that job.
That part.
And they're like, but then I won't have any money. And
Yes.
you didn't let that I won't have any money, I'm gonna be poor and homeless stop you.
I did for a long time. Like I think that has kept me at my job longer than I think I should have been there, is because I had this idea of what my life needed to look like. And I think in particular, right at the time I had been living in DC before I moved to Belgium. What it was, I need to live alone and I need to do this and it needs to look like that. And the reality was, and I guess it's also the fact that in my mind, moving home was a failure. That in my mind, I had to go back to Colorado if I had to move in with my mom or whatever. Essentially, if I had to ask for help, that means I failed, right? Because I was supposed to be the one who made it or whatever. And it took me realizing that I had this support system, and that's exactly what it was. And it was okay for me to lean on them. And so, okay, I'm not going to be homeless or hungry, even if I have savings, like even if I didn't have that savings, those two things are off the table. And I think I had just realized that one, a job is a transactional relationship. So I don't need to be grateful that these people hired me. I'm good at my job. They needed somebody to do this job. I do it well. They pay me to do it. That's what it is. And so with that in mind, I was like, if it all goes to shit, I'll just get another job. Like I am skilled and qualified and I will figure it out. Like I think it was learning to have confidence in my ability to be resourceful. I figured so many other things out.
Yeah. So why wouldn't you be able to figure that out?
Exactly. But that took a lot of inner work to get to that point.
Because I was gonna ask, was it to ask for that help, to ask for the support?
Moving home was like I didn't want to move back to Colorado, but I did for my job at the time. Like it made the most financial sense, and because I knew I would come to Mexico, and so I needed to be in a place where I figured that out and not be shelling out all my money living in DC, San Francisco, which is where they wanted to move me. Um, but I think I kind of got sick of it. Like I think I just over indexed putting up with the job that I was like, well, it can't be worse than this. So I'm gonna quit.
Well, but I think that's also important to think about because often in our heads, we make things much worse than they actually ever turn out to be.
Very much about what's the worst that could happen, when in reality, what's the best that could happen? And what is the likelihood that that worst thing is gonna happen? Because, even if I don't know, we think about going homeless or being hungry, and it's like, that's not gonna happen tomorrow. Like in most cases,
Yeah.
you have some things in place that are going to prevent you from doing that. So rather than leading into the end of the day, like let's just take a minute and be like, okay, that can be tomorrow's problem.
Did you in that break or that fun employment time that you had, were you finding joy?
It took a minute.
Okay.
One, like I said, this is all in the caveat of it being 2020. So I think we were all struggling for circumstances, right? Exactly. So I think that colored a little bit of my time off, but the first few weeks, it was just pushing through the fact that like I don't have to get up early, I don't have to be productive, and learning to be okay with doing nothing. Like allowing myself to do nothing so I could then figure out what do I like to do? What do I want to be doing? What are the things that bring me joy? And how can I bring more of that into every day when I am stuck at home or in a more limited space than I would be.
Okay.
I couldn't be out here hoping for the next trip or vacation. We were grounded.
That's true. and I mean, during that time, I was sort of occupied. And so I didn't do a lot of that during that time, I think. But I think a lot of people did. I think that's why we see so many people now. So and all of the what are the catchy words about quiet quitting and, all of those things. I think because a lot of people had a similar experience during that lockdown period of really, well, first of all, you were spending a lot of time with yourself. You didn't have anywhere to go. Um, you could really start to like you were not you, yes, you were very much in the life you had created. A lot of people found out
I don't like it
this.
very much.
I don't like this so much, and I need to make some changes. Um, Something you said to me was that joy and happiness are a choice. Care to explain that?
When I said that, I think we all have a myriad of needs that need to be met. Some are in our control, some of them are not. Um, but that does not mean we don't get to choose how we feel about it, how we move forward, what we want to do. Because I think if we focus on what could be all the time, or like what we wish would be different, there's a certain point where that is not motivating, that is actually discouraging. And so choosing joy, choosing to find those small things that make you feel good are the things that keep you going, that uh, from a more, I think, fulfilling base than say the fear or the stress being your driving factor.
Okay, okay. And so here you are now, living this life.
Yeah.
You have your own business. You said
Business is an interesting word, but yeah.
You are okay because you in your old corporate job, kind of your favorite thing about that was the coaching piece you got to do when you decided, "Mm, I'm not feeling all of this. I want a life that I don't want to say you ain't like your life. I don't want to say that words in your mouth, but when you were like, I'm gonna change this up, you pursue coaching certification.
Yes.
Okay. So that then has led you to doing this professionally.
Yeah.
And did it turn out like you thought it was?
Yes and no.
Like, did you see yourself sitting here talking to me?
No. Me and coaching, I still, at the time that I quit my job and went into the certification, my idea was to go back into the corporate space. I was like, I'm just gonna go be a coach internally somewhere. Because in my mind, I'm like, I still need benefits, I still need to be making this amount of money. My life, I get back to it, right? Needed to be in a certain way. Um, but once again, with the pandemic, I was did things. It's like, okay, well, people are not hiring coaches, right? Like that's not where we're spending our corporate dollars. Um, they're buckling down. I need to use these skills. I need to practice. I guess I'll start a business. Like that was literally the thought process of I need to be using these skills. I got none of these. Let me start a business. Um, and so that, and I think what really me quitting my job, and I think helped me to stop thinking about the long-term future. I did not have a plan, a 10-year plan. It was this is the thing I'm doing now, and we will see what happens there. And if I need to make a new decision later, I will do that when the time comes. This is what I got. This is what we're gonna do. Um, and taking things, I think, a little bit day by day. And I think that has, to a certain extent, continued in 4 years later. Not to say that I don't plan in a general sense, but I don't tie myself to the idea of like, what something needs to look like as opposed to the why. I think it's why I'm doing things and then into the opportunities or what things look like.
Okay, there are two things that there. One, the why you're doing things, because when I hear you say that, to me, that speaks of intentionality. And that, I think that's important. Or let me ask you a question instead. Has it been for you to be intentional and as opposed to like, you know, mapping out a whole big old plan and
Yes.
worrying about everything all at once, everywhere?
Yes, because I think the idea of mapping things out, the idea of need to look rather than what they feel like or what they do for you is the way in which we've been. And I had spent so long, kind of checking the boxes of like, okay, I'm going to go to school, then I'm going to get the corporate job, and then I'm going to do the things that we're supposed to do. And that did not bring happiness or fulfillment, at least nothing long term. And so a lot of it is like, if I am centering my joy in my day to day, what therefore does that look like? And I am very much a believer that I deserve to have what I call 10 out of 10 days. And that having 10 out of 10 days every day is a possibility for me. And so I lead with that as my intention, help me make decisions that better serve me. And I say that not to say that like they're all things I like, but serve the greater purpose of creating a life that I very much enjoy.
All right, so let's come back to that. What you said about uh 10 out of 10 day. What do you mean?
I think that every day gets to be a good one. I think it gets to be something that I enjoy and I love and that fills me up.
Mhm.
And I don't have to wait for vacation or weekends in order to have those feelings.
And you said that you deserve it.
Yeah.
That sounds like a very small thing, but it's really huge because, and I can speak about this from experience, a lot of the, I don't want to say sadness and misery of the first half of my life, but low-key, that's what it was because I think down, like if somebody had asked me, don't you think you deserve better than that? I would have been like, well, of course. But I don't think I really believed that happiness was even possible for me or that I deserved it. So that you felt you deserved a 10 out of 10 day. Um, I'm curious, how'd you get
For me, it was a bit of an epiphany. Before I went on this big trip to Antarctica and I took a cruise. And being there, it was filled with so much joy and fun and like, oh my God, I'm doing this thing that not a lot of Black girls do. And, I had this whole thing about 7 continents for 40.
And that was your seventh?
And that was my 7th continent. So I felt really accomplished, I think. And it was an accomplishment I set for myself that did not have to do without meeting anyone else's benchmarks. And as I'm like relishing in the joy of the moment, I realized, why don't I feel like this every day? This is something I should be feeling every day. Um, and I deserve to feel this every day, as opposed to putting those days on layaway and hoping I get to reach them soon. And taking that back home was what got me to quit my job, and I think has fueled me since then to continue being an entrepreneur, to be here in Mexico, um, and yeah, continue seeking that out.
Did you lead with that?
Yes.
What does that mean?
It means that as I am making decisions about my life, whether they be menial or big things, it's how does this fit with my, 10 out of 10, how does this fit with my vision for how I want to show up in the world? Does it support my ability to do that? If not, then that's probably not something I need to be doing.
I like this comment. Today is all we have. Tomorrow is not promised. If you think you will be happy when something in the future happens, you might not make it there. And I'm thinking about your comment about putting the joy and the happiness on layaway in hopes that, oh, I'll get to do that. Actually, I don't know about that. I don't. Like I said, I like that comment. I like what you said about like having it now and not putting it on layaway. But again, I think this comes back to we've been conditioned that delayed gratification is the way to go. And,
That things, it's almost like you won't enjoy it if you don't work hard for it, or if it doesn't require this obscene amount of effort.
or a little suffering sprinkled on top.
Suffering, yeah, that like you need to, in order to deserve the happiness, you gotta go through the bullshit. And I think that idea is bullshit.
Okay. So much so, do you think that is bullshit? That you help people get their own 10 out of 10 thing happening.
Yeah, yes. That is my goal. Actually next month. Yes, because we are still in July.
It's July. Just barely, but it is still July.
August 12th through 14th, I'm hosting a one step to a 10 out of 10 challenge, which is a 3-day challenge where I help people kind of what is standing in your way and how can we start to close the gap between where you are and what that 10 is in an actionable way.
I like that. And by actionable, you mean like these are things they go, somebody who does this challenge can go and do right now to get them closer to that.
Yes. Yes, that is what I want, is because we set really high bars for ourselves, especially when it comes to the idea of change, what we want our lives to be, how we want to be. And then we get very discouraged when we don't do that. And the reality is, it does not require gigantic shifts all the time in order for you to find to want to want you're living to feel good. And so it is really important to me to help other people realize that, because I don't want it to just be you're living for the weekend every day, all day.
I think about that, what you did, the whole like living for the weekend thing. Like we get indoctrinated on that idea that every day doesn't get to be a good day. Every day doesn't get to be a good day. That if you're lucky, you get a weekend with which to do
Right. Here you go, 2 days.
and that's it. And I think about like what was the earliest I heard someone say that, or someone said to me, and so no wonder it is so hard for us to kind of step away from that vision of life where, oh no, I should be experiencing joy. I should be happy every day. Like the shift from that to me, that's huge. That's like monumental.
Yeah, I remember I had a great aunt who, when I was living in DC, was appalled to learn that I was cleaning my house or doing laundry or something on like a Saturday or Sunday. And she was like, "Girl, we do a little bit throughout the week, and then the weekend is your night." And I was like, I get it. I get it of why I don't necessarily want to be saving, the work for the weekend when at that time all I had was those 2 days. But also realizing that like, oh well, that's part of it too. Like those little things are going to help me enjoy my life better, right? It's not a lot of times it is the fun stuff and working that into every day, but sometimes how can I set up my day-to-day a little to create better space for me to enjoy things overall, as opposed to big things once in a blue moon.
I see a comment who's asking the question about this whole concept of like whether you deserve something or you don't. I think you're right. I think there are some elements of that idea that come from the United
Very
States.
puritanical.
Very puritanical, like Protestant work ethic, that this idea that you have to suffer a little bit, gotta work in order to deserve this piece of happiness. You think about a lot of religious
Doctrine.
doctrine, not the word, but that'll work. The idea that, yeah, life right now here on earth is shitty, but just hold on. Yeah, there you go. So I think there's some of it, but I also think there's an element of capitalism in there right now too, because a capitalist system doesn't run if everybody is out here pursuing their 10 out of 10 days. If you're, because you think about what is the driving force in capitalism, it is not happiness, it is not joy. And so in order, this is just my take on things, in order to keep people in that system, they need to believe that there's only a certain time that they can have those things, or that they have to perform, they have to be productive, they have to work a certain amount in order to get those things. So I think in the US in particularly, it's sort of a combination of the two. And
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I was not aware the grip that had on me until kind of like you had that sort of epiphany moment of this. And if I'm only gonna be here for however many years, I should at least get some time that I love.
Yeah. Definitely that, because I think that's a lot of it is we are not taught to question things. Right. And particularly if you're coming from an American perspective, right? It's the greatest country in the world, and like we do everything right. And so there is the idea that like there could be another way. And being able to ask the questions and say, like, okay, this is a way. Is this the best way? Is it the best way for me? What is working? What isn't working? Um, because then the system falls apart if you decide that there are better options.
This is interesting, Marcia. Many people are convinced that happy people are lucky. You are not wrong about that. They don't feel empowered to change their own lives or the way they feel about their lives. Many also think that wealth is the road to happiness. Now, I will say money can buy, because what money buys you is options and freedom.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. There are a lot of folks who, it's the, oh, show must be nice people. Because what they're implying there is you're lucky and it must be nice that you got that kind of luck.
Yeah.
I think that's where some of that comes
Yeah. Yeah. I had someone maybe like a year ago, like ask me, they were just, oh, you seem to have it, all figured out and like everything is great. And I was like, it's not that I have it all figured out so much as I choose not to be stressed about it.
Okay.
And I was very clear. Choose.
Okay.
Not to say the things that are not stressful, but like
But again, being just as a choice, like that is kind of revolutionary, because they're, like you were saying about like questioning things, that happy people aren't just lucky. Like maybe they worked intentionally to get that happiness, that, could I deserve joy? How having to break my back? And it's like the idea of taking off time from work. Um, like, oh well, I can't be calling out too often. Yeah, I know they gave me that PO, but how it's gonna look if I take all of it?
Yes, that is something I work on with my clients a lot. Because one, your PTO is part of your compensation package. So if you're not taking all of it or leaving money on the table, and that's giving back to the business. And I had a mentor in my corporate job from the beginning who told me that it was not my job to save the company money. And so I always make sure to use my time off. We had a subsidy for like health and wellness. I don't work out, okay? Didn't then, but was I finding things to buy to utilize that subsidy, or getting massages once they instituted that as part of policy, whatever it was. I found a way. I was going to use it because that was part of my compensation package, and they owed me for doing the job that they hired me to do.
I think there might be somebody watching this. I know somebody watching this because get y'all's comments on these videos that are like, who's gonna say y'all are making this sound too easy? She's talking about she chooses not to be stressed about this. Like that's not the real world. That's not real life. And like, what does your real life look like now?
Oh. I think there's a certain because I enjoy my life so much, people think it's because I'm an entrepreneur and like I own a business, and so I can do what I want. And I'm like, yeah, if I do what I want all the time, I'm not making it because I'm similar to all of you. I don't want to work, right? Like that is not necessarily the thing. As much as I do my job and I do enjoy coaching and the flexibility that comes with that, um, that means I still have to choose things. I still have to choose things that maybe in the moment don't feel so great.
But said choose what's best.
What's best, but they feed into overall, I do get to have this ability if I go in there and I coach this person, or I, show up on the internet, or I don't know, do my taxes. Like that's not, but my life is gonna be way easier if I just get it out of the way than trying to do the thing. And so like that's part of it. It is also, we had cake today to celebrate your expat anniversary. And like that's it too, of being like, hey, I'm gonna just have cake for
It's today.
it's Tuesday.
I want a custom Katrina's talking about, can we talk about y'all had?
It was a churro cake. It was delicious.
Churro and thing the that man made those churros for the top of the cake and throughout. Like that is why I come on here and share this opportunity with y'all, because like she came with an epiphany on her own. I did way too much suffering on my part. But sometimes, like, you don't have to wait. You could take her challenge and she can help you get there. But this idea that like I have created a life for myself where I can say, you know what, I want the word is not bedazzled, bespoke custom cake on a random Tuesday, and that can be my life, you know?
Yes. I very much agree with that. Like, I think it is the little things. I know many of us have jobs where maybe you're not going to the office every day. And I want you to ask yourself, how much more are you perhaps working when you don't commute versus when and like that is what you might be taken away from your ability to have a 10 is not having those boundaries, or taking the time for yourself that I think is sometimes necessary, right? As you're trying to manage all the different roles that you hold in your life. showing up for yourself first is going to allow you to have better relationships. And like once again, I just want you to enjoy your life more because it does make the things when they happen, you get to sit in that gratitude more. Um, and it also just isn't a slug to get there.
One lesson I learned, and most of my lessons, it took me some mistakes and a lot of mess ups to learn. But one thing that I learned is you cannot put your happiness in someone else's hands.
Mhm.
It's gotta be you. Somebody else will drop it, they will damage it. It's gotta be you. And
And you also can't put it on hold.
you I like that. You cannot put it on because as we have established, we y'all think about the last 4 or 5 years, think about the last 4 or 5 weeks, putting your happiness on hold. What is there's no win there.
And I think we underestimate how much that affects us negatively in terms of we become resentful, right? You're resenting the people you think have better than you. You're resenting the people that maybe you're putting ahead of yourself, in your day to day. And it's not a way to live either.
Uh, Sunny says, in my opinion, it's more about living on purpose rather than on autopilot or doing on 24/7. 100%. It is about being intentional, living with intention, choosing. I want, I want to enjoy my life.
Yeah.
I want to create a life that I mean, I guess it sounds cliche, a life I don't need a vacation from, but
That.
and and I guess the reason I want to have this conversation is sometimes these are some of the other comments y'all be making on my videos about, well, like, that's nice for you, but that's not for me.
Mhm.
And that is not true.
Yeah. And I think, why do you need that to be true? And I think that is the central focus of the 10 out of 10 day challenge because it's not about what I consider to be a 10. It's about you defining for yourself what is a 10 and getting out of the habit of using someone else's benchmark for your success, for happiness, or what it is that you want. Um, because it's not, once again, if you're putting all of that in someone else's hands, you are going to be disappointed.
To throw another cliche at y'all, you're talking about using somebody else's benchmark. Comparison is the thief of joy. And if that's the whole point, is you want like using somebody else's measuring stick is not going to get you there. And the thing that I love about the challenge that Ivana does is particularly, I think, for the folks who are like, I can't see how this is possible for me.
Mhm.
I think if you hear yourself saying that, you need to be in this challenge.
That sounds nice.
But that's not, I think you're exactly the person who needs to take this challenge. Because when I say I want kind of happiness for every woman I know, I really, really mean the life I have been so fortunate to have over the last 9 years. Um, like never ever did I think that was possible for me. I low key didn't think I deserved it, but of course I deserved it. And
You're here. You deserve it.
yeah, that's it. That's the only thing that requires me to deserve it is the fact that I am here. And if I am here, why should I not get to be happy?
Yeah. And that's what I want to lower the bar to entry to our happiness, to accomplishment is not the word I want to use, but to all of it. Like we set ourselves up so high and have these expectations that we would not have for other people of what it is we need to do, we need to accomplish, you know, in a day in our lives. And it's like when we don't make that, we get discouraged and we get hard on ourselves. And it's like, okay, but here's what we can do, right? Let's take into account that life be life and I'll have different responsibilities. That doesn't mean you can't have a 10.
When is the challenge?
August 12th through the 14th. It is partially an email challenge and then everything at 6:30, no, 8:30 Eastern time. We have a 30-minute connect call where we get to pick through and I can provide more personalized support and kind of what are the things coming up as you have done the activities to get to understanding what is your 10 and how you and what might that one step be.
And like you said, folks leave with actionable.
Yes, of here are the steps. It's one step. You might have other steps. We might come up with them, but one step getting you closer to
that. Okay, all right. So I know either here in this live or watching this on the replay, who some of the things we said tonight, it's resonating with you. You are hearing and seeing yourself in that. And I hope you take this opportunity. Sometimes things present themselves to us. You know, I say all the time, it's full of cliches and sayings tonight. You know, the universe tends to unfold as it should. And sometimes things get in your path that you don't realize are the thing that you need,
what you need to hear.
yeah, exactly. And so I know there's somebody that is what this challenge is. So I hope you take it up and get that much closer to finding your happiness because that is indeed what I want for every one of y'all.
Yeah. So I don't want you, you know, waiting. We're about to enter back to school season and let's take summertime vibes into the rest of the year.
I mean, okay. Yeah. As a former classroom teacher, the way I would be counting down the days to summer break, and I think about why was summer so great? Even when you were a kid, why was summer so great? It is really when you got to like live for you. You got to indulge in you had all of these choices available for like how are you going to spend your time, what are you going to do, and the decisions you were making, the things you were doing in essence were in the pursuit of joy. So why not take that energy, that summertime shy energy, and have that all year long? That's what it is. That's what it is. So what else would you say? I don't know what else I need to say to y'all. I think that's what we got for tonight. Thank you to everybody who wished me happy anniversary. It has been 8 incredible years. That is really the only word I can use to describe. Because see, y'all didn't know me before. Y'all know what my life used to look like. And that I'm out here like low key having some 10 out of 10 days.
Yeah.
Like this is so huge and it has been incredible. Not to say the 8 years every time has been perfect, because you know I moved to Kuwait. That was a mistake. But
We're not seeking perfection.
no,
10 out of 10 days are not perfection. I'm gonna just say that. Yeah.
but the last 8 years have been incredible. And I want this kind of happiness for all of you. Thank you again for your well wishes. Thank you for joining here live tonight. If you are watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. If this content resonated with you, are you subscribed to my channel? so that you can get more of this good stuff. There's a whole playlist of videos on similar topics to help you like reclaim your life and be able to live the life that you want. So don't just stop at this video. Watch some of those too.
Click the bell so you'll be notified when she goes live.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. I'll see y'all next Tuesday night. Until then, everybody.